President Abbas took a step in the wrong direction this week. We opposed his resolution. But we also need to see that the Palestinian Authority in the West Bank still offers the most compelling alternative to rockets and permanent resistance. At a time when religious extremists claim to offer rewards in the hereafter, Israel needs to help those committed to peace deliver for their people in the here and now. The leaders of the West Bank, President Abbas and Prime Minister Fayyad, deserve credit for their real achievements on the ground. They made their streets safe again. They brought a measure of peace. They overhauled governing institutions. They have cooperated with Israel to help enhance Israel's security. And we have to be honest with ourselves that right now, all of this needs our political and economic support to be sustainable. It also needs a political horizon. So particularly in light of today's announcement, let me reiterate that this administration, like previous administrations, has been very clear with Israel that these activities set back the cause of a negotiated peace. We all need to work together to find a path forward in negotiations that can finally deliver on a two-state solution. That must remain our goal. And if and when the parties are ready to enter into direct negotiations to solve the conflict, President Obama will be a full partner. Now, some will say that given the disappointments of the past and the uncertainties of today, now is not the time even to contemplate a return to serious negotiations, that it should be enough for Israel just to muddle through, dealing with whatever crisis arises. But the dynamics of ideology and religion, of technology and demography conspire to make that impossible. Without progress toward peace, extremists will grow stronger and moderates will be weakened and pushed away. Without peace, Israel will be forced to build ever more powerful defenses against ever more dangerous rockets. And without peace, the inexorable math of demographics will one day force Israelis to choose between preserving their democracy and remaining a Jewish homeland. A strong Israeli military is always essential, but no defense is perfect. And over the long run, nothing would do more to secure Israel's future as a Jewish democratic state than a comprehensive peace. And that leads me to my fourth goal. At a time when the Arab world is remaking itself right before our eyes, America and Israel have to work together to do what we can to ensure that democratic change brings the region closer to peace and security, not farther away. But there is no going back to the way things were. We are not naive about the risks these changes are bringing, and we recognize that for Israel, they hit close to home. And so, even as the United States supports democratic transitions in Egypt and Tunisia, in Libya and Yemen, we are also making clear that rights and freedoms come with responsibilities. All states must address threats arising from inside their borders, fight terrorism and extremism, and honor their international commitments. And working closely with them on these critical issues does not mean we seek a return to the old bargain. Honoring obligations abroad does not lessen the need for these governments to respect fundamental rights, build strong checks and balances, and seek inclusive dialogue at home. Egypt's recent declarations and the decision to hold a vote on the Constitution, despite social unrest and a lack of consensus across Egypt's political spectrum, raise concerns for the United States, the international community, and most importantly, for Egyptians. To redeem the promise of their revolution, Egypt will need a constitution that protects the rights of all, creates strong institutions, and reflects an inclusive process. Egypt will be strongest, and so will our partnership, if Egypt is democratic and united behind a common understanding of what democracy means. Democracy is not one election, one time. Democracy is respecting minority rights. Democracy is a free and independent media. Democracy is an independent judiciary. Democracy requires hard work, and it only begins, not ends, with elections. And let me add that the work of building consensus does not belong to new democracies alone. America will need broad-based support to end our impasse over our budget. Israel will need the same to solve your challenges. Next door, the Syrian people are fighting for their rights and freedoms. A violent struggle against a tyrant is unfolding so close to Israel you can see it from the hilltops of the Golan Heights. Instability in Syria threatens all of us. But the safest and best path forward for Syria and its neighbors is to help the opposition build on its current momentum and bring about a political transition within Syria. The United States is using humanitarian aid, non-lethal assistance to the opposition, intensive diplomatic engagement, working with the Syrian people to try to bring about that political transition. So there's a lot on our plates. And for me, this is a remarkable moment in history. If we were just to step back for a time and look at what is happening around the world. But it is also a time that is fraught with anxiety and insecurity, uncertainty and danger. So we need to strengthen our consultations and collaboration on all of the issues that we face together. And we need to support the men and women in our militaries, in our diplomacy, who represent the United States and Israel at every turn so well. There is a lot of hard work ahead of us, but for me, there is no doubt that working together, we are up to whatever task confronts us. Protecting Israel's future is not simply a question of policy for me, it's personal. I've talked with some of you I've known for a while about the first trip Bill and I took to Israel so many years ago, shortly after our daughter was born. And I have seen the great accomplishments, the pride of the desert blooming and the startups springing up. I've held hands with the victims of terrorism in their hospital rooms, visited a bombed-out pizzeria in Jerusalem, walked along the fence near Gilo, and I know with all my heart how important it is that our relationship go from strength to strength. As I prepare to trade in my post as Secretary of State for a little more rest and relaxation, I look forward to returning to Israel as a private citizen on a commercial plane, walking the streets of the old city, sitting in a cafe in Tel Aviv, visiting the many Israelis and Palestinians I have gotten to know over the years. And of course, it is no state secret that I hope to become a grandmother someday. And one day I hope to take my grandchildren to visit Israel, to see this country that I care so much about. And when I do, I hope we will find a thriving Israel, secure and finally at peace alongside a Palestinian state, in a region where more people than ever before, men and women, have the opportunity to live up to their God-given potential. That and nothing less is the future we must never stop working to deliver. Thank you all very much.